Hello, everybody. Welcome to Playback. I'm Brandon.
I'm Nate.
And we are two music producers, and this is the show where we take turns choosing albums to discuss. And this week, Nate, you have chosen Jimi Hendrix, and it's an album with a very long name. It is First Rays of the New Rising Sun.
That's right.
Which is an interesting one.
Yes.
Right? Because normally when you hear people say like, oh, we're going to talk about the Jimi Hendrix album blank, you're used to hearing a couple familiar names in that blank space.
Maybe like 4 different things. Maybe.
Exactly. But this one, First Rays of the New Rising Sun, it was definitely new to me, but
nice.
You know, obviously you're familiar with it. You picked it. Mm-hmm. So what is it? What is First Rays of the ... ellipsis?
Yeah. So First Rays of the New Rising Sun is in the 90s when the Hendrix family regained control of Jimi Hendrix's music and likeness. They basically attempted to put together what did Jimmy's 4th album look like, because he basically died while he was making it. I don't think a lot of people really realize that, but like this is like the last kind of unfinished Jimi Hendrix album that he was doing after Electric Ladyland and after Band of Gypsies even. So it's a lot of the stuff on here is not necessarily new to 1997. It wasn't actually. Pretty much all of it had been released in the early 70s in one form or another on albums like War Heroes and Rainbow Bridge and The Cry of Love and like all these other posthumous albums that came out right after he died. But this is the version of those songs that kind of have the official Hendrix stamp of approval on them, and they are the most polished and kind of cohesive sounding of all those collections. And honestly, I grew up with this one. Oh,
really? Okay.
Yeah, I got this one. I think that was presented as his next album. And when I was a kid and I bought all the other Hendrix stuff, I was like, oh, I want to get the next one. And like at the time, it wasn't that much longer after this had come out. I was like, oh, cool, it's that one. I didn't know anything about War Heroes or any of the other, records that they tried to do.
So at the time when you were a kid doing your, which is a rite of passage for many young individuals, you do your Hendrix listen through, right? Like everyone at some point in life does your Beatles listen through, your Pink Floyd listen through, your Led Zeppelin listen through. You got to do your Hendrix listen through. Multiple
times throughout life. It has been a long time since I've done a Hendrix listen through, though, which I'm sure it probably has for you, too.
It absolutely has, because like those other bands that I mentioned, it's so... such a thing that
it's like foundational shit,
right? That I did when I was so young, like a lot of other people. It's music that I just became so used to and so accustomed to and heard so many times, so young that it's sort of almost to the point of like I'm good for a lifetime. Like I don't really need to listen to it anymore.
I completely agree, which is kind of why I was like, how do we find a way into talking about Jimi Hendrix? And I think this is kind of one of the only ways, because everything else is like such like well-trodden ground. Not that you and I wouldn't have plenty to talk about, but I agree with you. It just feels like that stuff has become so like kind of inherent to my musical biology that it's like... It's hard to think of much else to say about it, but this stuff, at least, it's like there is. This album is like one of my most favorite kinds of albums, which is like it has a good what if question attached to it.
Totally, yeah.
Because look, we'll talk about what we think of like, is this his truly like? Can you consider this his 4th album or not? I don't really know how much you can, because he didn't have a hand in like curating it. in curating
Right.
the how it is now. It's the
Right.
best approximation that we have. But it is just like listening through it, it's just like there's so much potential. His sound had changed so much. He was just in a completely different musical headspace with new musicians.
And something that we can get into later is this recording studio that this was recorded in is a very important thing and was brand new to him and very momentous for him.
And he barely got to work in it. Like, I think so basically, for those that don't know, we'll go into it in depth later, but like, Hendrix was, basically he was spending like $300,000 a year in the 60s, mind you, on like top flight recording sessions, like with session musicians and like, he would just like millions and millions of dollars. And, mind you, he was the highest paid musician of his era, and he was the highest paid musician alive at the time. And there's something really interesting I learned, that he took a pay cut to play Woodstock in '69, but he was still paid like over double more than like the next most highest paid band. Like he was like, I don't know. It's kind of like going through him again. It's just kind of, he really was like a huge fucking deal at the time. Like everybody recognized it. Everybody that we recognize as like the greatest to ever do it, they were like, no, he's like way better. Like he really is like the second coming of like fucking whatever we're supposed to be doing here. Like, so rather than let him spend $300,000 a year in all these fucking crazy recording studios, they initially had like a plan to open up his own nightclub for him in New York so he could just like hang out and like play all the time with people. But they realized that would just become an even bigger money sink, I think. So they converted that space and that plan into a recording studio for him called Electric Lady. Is it Lady or Ladyland? I think it's Electric
Lady Studios.
Electric Lady Studios, which is still operational today. It's one of the top nicest recording studios, AAA recording studios you can go to. It's probably like the premier recording studio in New York City. Like,
well, the impression the impression that I got that came down to the decision to, instead of this building that you just bought, Jimmy, instead of using it to open a club like the plan was, let's pivot and make it into a recording studio. The impression that I got for why they decided to make that change was like, well, okay, if the whole reason to do this is to like, make some income, have a business, make a club, make a business, bring in some cash. Actually, if we just do something to get rid of this multi-million-dollar hemorrhaging of money that you're doing every year, if we just get rid of that expense, that more than takes care of what you want to get out of this club in terms of making money. So let's just do that instead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. Yeah. And just like opening up a nightclub for Jimi Hendrix, like as cool as that probably would have been probably a disaster. He just would have spent more money. He just would have sank more money into something like that, I would think. Yeah. At least the studio, it's like he had like his Studio A, and then presumably even at the time when they were building it for him, it was going to operate as a business for other bands and stuff. But yeah, so a big part of the creation of this album was, made at his brand new studio, Electric Lady. But I mean, he really only got to spend probably a couple of months there, I would think, right? He didn't really have a whole lot of time in the studio, but
literally a few months.
Yeah, a few months.
Recording there before he died.
Yeah, right before he died. Like I read something. It was like they basically had like the like I want to say like rap party kind of thing, like yay, we finished the studio kind of, and they.
Yeah, it was like a grand opening party.
A grand opening, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And they debuted a couple of his like new singles, which are stuff off this album. Like I think it was like Isabella and something else. And then he was like, all right, cool, I have to go to Europe for whatever. And then he left, and did he die in Europe?
He died on that trip.
Yeah, he died on that trip, and he never came home. So yeah, it's crazy. Like a really crazy like whirlwind time for Jimi Hendrix. a time where I think he was being like pushed and pulled in like a billion different directions by like a billion different like good and bad actors that surrounded him. Whether that be like managers or producers or, you know, various like musicians he was kind of detangling himself from. And this was going to be his first album, not as the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Maybe it would have been called that, but it was like there was no Noel Redding. There was Mitch Mitchell still, but also now there's Billy Cox, who's like his old army buddy, new bass player, and Buddy Miles. Buddy Miles is on a couple of these tracks too, which means
drummer Buddy Miles. Yeah.
Drummer, yeah, the drummer Buddy Miles. So a couple of these are like proper Band of Gypsies songs. It's all three of them, which is pretty cool too. Not very many, only like two songs.
That's right. Buddy Miles was the drummer in Band of Gypsies.
In Band of Gypsies, yeah.
Which was his band after the Jimi Hendrix Experience disbanded.
Right.
Yeah.
And even that band was like, that was like a contractual thing. Like Capitol, because like Hendrix was like so fucking tied up with so much legal like baggage. Like he would just like sign contracts when he was younger and then like owe people records and money and stuff. And
the music industry was different in the 60s as well.
It was different
than it is now.
He would like sign a recording contract, get in advance, make a record or two, still technically be on the hook for like more music, and then just kind of like skip town and like go sign another record contract with like somebody else, right? Yeah. So like throughout his whole career, his management team was like detangling him from all this shit. Meanwhile, he was playing, dude, he played like hundreds of shows a year while he was alive. Was the biggest, most famous, most respected musician of his time. And I think finally right around this period, he was like finally getting to a place where I think it was like he was maybe more comfortable and it was more, because I don't know, I don't know how you feel about it, but I always kind of look at the Jimi Hendrix Experience as like they were kind of like a boy band almost, like they were like a pop group, like they were like assembled basically. It was like they held like auditions. It's not like they like were playing together. It was like they held auditions and they're like and like even Jimmy was like, he was like, I like that guy because of his hair, right? Oh, and I like this drummer because he has the same hair, right? And they just looked
I guess I'm a fan of this hair. Yeah.
Yeah. But they were kind of they were this separate thing that was really cool. But what I love about this period he was entering into was it felt one, completely different from that, and two, it felt like maybe a more pure expression of him as a musician, not like psychedelic 60s guy, not this guy thrown in a band with these two white British dudes he barely knew. It was like, no, I'm calling up my friends, people I know, people I like, people I've worked with, and like doing a new sound. Like dude, I listened to like his whole catalog this week and I'm just like, this was there's a lot of similarities to his older stuff too, but like this really was like a new, this was a new, like he was trying to go somewhere new with his music, which I really love.
Yeah.
I don't know what about you? Like you, so you'd never heard of this before, I take it, right?
No. When you picked this as being the next album that we are going to discuss, I had never heard that title, First Rays of the New Rising Sun. I never knew that this album existed. I didn't know that there were like, later sessions that never made it onto an album, which is why it was really interesting to me to hear you say just now that like when you were a kid, doing your first listen through of Hendrix and doing your required studies and learning the texts that at that
sacred scrolls.
Yeah, right, exactly. That at that time you weren't aware that this wasn't one of them.
I think I was relatively aware that this came out later, but it just was like, it just became like, oh, it's just more Hendrix. That I listened to this, I listened to our Experience, I listened to, I listened to it all. And this was just one of them that I also listened to,
Yeah, because this is a really interesting album in terms of like what it is and the context of it. And it's very different than any of the albums that we have talked about and discussed so far, because, you know, okay, so, you know, Hendrix is known for, he has 3 albums that are, well, actually 4. That
if you count what? Band of Gypsies?
If you count Band of Gypsies.
I would, yeah.
Yeah, and most people do. That are considered like, you know, like
unimpeachable.
If there is an artist that made 4 albums and they're all amazing and they're all important and they're all unimpeachable, like you say, then this is it, you know?
Yeah.
You got Are You Experienced, Axis Bold as Love, Electric Ladyland, and then Band of Gypsies, which is a live album. But
a live album, but all original new shit too, which is also really unique about it. It's sick.
It's a new band with new songs.
Yeah.
So it's 4 albums. But this one is so interesting because it's sort of like one of our earlier episodes, we were talking about David Bowie. We're talking about Black Star, right? Mm-hmm. And that one is really interesting because it's the last album that an artist made before they died. And in part of that discussion, we were talking about how when David Bowie died, where he was at in that point of time was he was in the like very early conceptual planning phases of a new album, a next one. And he didn't at any point make any recordings of these new concepts or ideas for songs when he died, right? So this one is interesting because this is a case where an artist died when the next album that we never got to get is partially freaking completed.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the work been done.
Yeah.
But this is also like a really good example to kind of show you how much work really goes into making an album.
Yes.
Because here is a collection of recordings that this guy spent weeks, months making. And it's like when you listen to it, you can tell it's
half done.
It's half done.
Yeah.
You know, and you can tell.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a shame because, and I do though have to give credit to the people who did work on this many years later in the 90s and bring this to as close of a state of completion as anybody could probably get it to, you know?
Yeah.
Like the whole concept of this, of First Rays of the New Rising Sun, is to present to you as close as we can possibly get to what this next album would have been like.
Right.
And the big shame of it is essentially, I feel, I don't know how you feel,
mm-hmm.
that's it's basically impossible.
I totally agree. I think,
and this is as close as it gets, and it's great. And I'm glad that they did it because it's worth doing.
Yeah.
You know, like it's worth showing this partially completed work just so that everyone who cares can hear it and can see it.
Yeah.
It's worth it. But it's like, is this the 4th record? It's like a big, unfortunately, no, it's not. Not really.
Is this his 4th album truly?
What do you think?
It's so hard because, like you said, how it feels half finished, and I think I agree with you in like from multiple different like vectors on that. Actually, as an album, I feel like it's super front loaded. Like they put all the stuff that was done all in a row, all the way through. I'm looking at the track listing right now, so it's like Freedom, Isabella, Nightbird Flying, Angel, Roomful of Mirrors, Dolly Dagger, Easy Rider, and then around Drifting, Beginnings, it's like then they start to
Beginnings is probably the first moment where it's like, okay,
It's
now
like this never would have made it
to temp versions now.
Yeah. Well, also,
well,
so
there's some, okay. Sorry,
not that
keep going.
track's not cool, but like, what is that track? What is
It's
it?
It's instrumental.
I know it's instrumental, but it's called Beginnings. And to me, it sounds like a bunch of different intros. Like, it sounds like he possibly was just like, hey man, we've got 6 fucking intros. Let's just like jot them all down during this jam. And so that I can come back to them later. I might use this one for something. 'Cause I don't actually know.
Like these are the beginnings of songs.
That's kind of when I hear it, I can't really unhear it because each one is like its own separate little thing, not really informed by the prior section. So right at the halfway mark of this collection of songs, you all of a sudden have something thrown in there that is definitely of like a lesser, not quality. It's still cool, but it's not as polished. It's not as finished. There's way less going on. There's way less like post-production. There's way fewer overdubs. And I would say the same thing about like drifting too. Like drifting, it sounds literally half finished. So I'm like, what I'm saying is like the album, they made it halfway through where half of it sounds like finished mixes and finished everything. Like Hendrix was involved like through to the very end. And a lot of those songs, that is the case. Like he worked on the mixes too. And then right at that halfway point, not only do you start getting into the rest of the album is basically half finished, but like almost all the songs left on them are kind of halfway finished too, in comparison to the first half.
You know what's really creepy about some of these songs too, man, is so Wikipedia has a kind of a cool little table of information on the page for this album that's underneath the track listing here, and it shows it shows the dates of each recording session for each one of the songs. Yeah. Okay. So like, for example, like this song right here, it was worked on July 1st and July 15th and July 19th of 1970 or whatever, you know, and so on. And what's really creepy to me is like some of these things have like the drums were recorded on Angel after Jimi Hendrix died.
Yeah, dude. A lot of that was going on.
The vibraphones were recorded on Drifting after Jimi Hendrix died. I'm just like imagining, hey, let's get together in the studio and fucking get a better take of drums on Angel. It's like why?
And you know what's weird too is like,
what for?
Like, you know how I just said that like pretty much those first like 7-8 songs are all sound finished. Angel is the one where I'm like, it doesn't though. Like it's really good.
Angel doesn't sound finished to you?
Not really, no. Not think about it. Like think about a lot of these tracks, Dolly Dagger, Nightbird Flying, Freedom, Easy Rider, they have like background vocals and like call and response shit, and there's like multiple different guitar overdubs and like all this stuff. There's so much more to it. Now, Angel is a different kind of song, right? It's like a more intimate thing. It's kind of not even bluesy. It's almost like kind of 50s, like
a ballad.
It's a ballad, yeah. So it's a different kind of thing. But I just, knowing Hendrix, and even you can just hear it on the rest of this stuff, it's just like, it just sounds half finished. It doesn't sound like he was done with it yet. You know what I mean? And I mean, you're pointing out the drums thing. I didn't even realize that. And that is super weird, right? I mean,
and when I say after he died, I'm not talking about like 15 years after he died.
Like after he died.
I'm talking about like a month after he died.
Yeah. But that's kind of what I was getting at earlier, dude, is like he was so like intertwined with really scummy people in it while he was alive. Like his manager, Michael Jeffries, was like, he was like, you know how they always say about like, I forget the guy's name, but the Led Zeppelin manager who's like the most like scumbag manager ever, but like he's exactly the kind of manager you want on your side.
Right, because he's a fucking gangster who just like makes everything go your way. Yeah.
So like that's what Jimmy's manager was like. His name was Michael Jeffries, and he had like mob ties and like just super sketchy guy. there's like an urban legend. I love this urban legend, but I can't this is all alleged and like who knows if it's true, is that he actually had Jimi Hendrix like kidnapped at one point and like held for ransom and like used it to like launder money and like or was it like it was something like Hendrix was kidnapped by the mob and like Michael Jeffries like used his connections to like get him out of that situation. It's like all kinds of crazy shit like that. He was like an old school New York dude. A guy who was like, let's build you a nightclub. Oh, wait, actually, that the financials on that are kind of insane. Let's just build a studio,
Mm-hmm.
But it was like people like him and just, everyone just saw a buck with this guy. And it didn't stop when he died. It was a month later. They're like, well, fuck. We were supposed to make a bunch of money off Jimmy this year. What's the deal with that? When's the next? We got to finish.
Right.
Everybody
I would like looking at their goose to lay the golden egg.
Totally, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, because Hendrix was like a fucking money printer, dude. Like, so it doesn't surprise. It's very crass. I agree. It doesn't necessarily hamper my enjoyment of the songs. I think the songs are great.
Yeah, I never knew that. Angel is. I've always loved that song.
I'm looking at it. You're so right. October 19th. Oh, that was like a month later. That's fucking nuts.
That means Mitch Mitchell had to go back into and like what studio? It was in Electric Lady Studios.
Yeah.
They went back and recorded again.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
I mean, look at what they did. They released all this shit that's on this record in like 3, 4, 5 different versions of albums throughout the 70s. I mean, there's so many like just shameless cash grab type releases with Hendrix. And again, I think that's why people don't really know about this one, is because it had like a botched rollout in the 70s, right? Half of it is on that War Heroes album, and then the rest of it is like totally scatterbrained all over the place, all over like 5 or 6 other ones. And so I feel like the impact that this should have on people has also been kind of deadened by like how many times it's been like recycled and rehashed on different fucking releases over the years and stuff.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, his legacy got really kind of like splintered, and the focus of how impactful something that he released would be really got dissipated after he died. And so, when this album was finally released, 97, that's 27 years after he died. I mean, by that point, what can you trust? Like, hey, did you hear? There's a new Hendrix release. It's like, okay.
Whatever.
Right.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, we've been there, done that. There's like 15 other... There's more posthumous Hendrix albums claiming to basically be this than there are like Hendrix albums, like proper Hendrix albums,
This album really got lost in a like Boy Who Cried Wolf type of a situation.
It's a bummer.
You can only say, oh, here's the lost 4th album so many times before it loses its meaning.
Thing is, though, is it never did for me, because I didn't know about any of that stuff when I was a kid. So for me, this shit hit like crack. I was like, yeah, dude, fucking Isabella,
So that's why I was driving around listening to this, I was like, I'm really glad and really grateful that you picked this one for this show, because I did not even know that lost in that mix, there was one that like, no, really, this actually is like the lost 4th album, like for real, lost within that Boy Who Cried Wolf situation, And so getting to listen to it, like you said, like, yeah, it feels like, and it sounds like, oh God, it's just more Jimmy. Like
it's more Jimmy, dude.
Yeah.
That's how it always was for me. I mean, my biggest thing with this, and we started talking about this, and it's like, yes, it's more Jimmy, and it is the closest thing there is to the 4th album, but at the same time, and I think you agree with me, like, it's not, and it couldn't be, and it can't be, and nothing ever will be.
Exactly.
And you know what I arrived at that made me kind of decide on that fact? Because when I picked it, I was like, this is the 4th one. People just don't know about it. But when I listened to it more and I realized how half finished it really is, the other thing that really hit me was, and this especially felt true after listening to his other work that he did while he was alive, was the lack of a feeling of like curation behind this, right? Like, this is everything. It's all there. Here it is. It's all here. They're presenting it in a really nice way, right? But like Jimmy, he like would play with track listings in a smart way, and like he had such a heavy hand in mix. Like Eddie Kramer gets all the credit, and like credit well deserved because he's amazing. But like
Eddie Kramer, we got to make sure people are hearing who you're talking about, because not everyone knows who Eddie Kramer is.
Yeah. So Eddie Kramer is famously Hendrix's producer and recording engineer. His work with Jimi Hendrix basically like innovated studio techniques that are like legendary and that we still use, like tape loop shit. He invented flange basically for Jimi Hendrix and tape phasing.
A lot of artists, both legendary and not so legendary, throughout their career work with, on albums, any different number of engineers and producers. It's really normal to hop around between different ones. Jimi Hendrix had one the entire time. They were a freaking partnership. That's Eddie Kramer. Yeah.
They were a great partnership because I look at their partnership as Jimi Hendrix was this massively creative person who, in a studio context, would basically say, I want it to sound like this. And he was lucky that he had a tradesman, and a skilled tradesman at that, in Eddie Kramer, who could accomplish, who could make that creativity a reality in a recording studio environment on a mixing console, right? So, in any other hand, someone, Jimi Hendrix would have said, I want, the album to sound like Underwater. And like, they would have just put reverb on it and called it a day. But like someone like Eddie Kramer has, he can kind of match Hendrix's creativity and drive for like innovation that I think a lot of other producers probably wouldn't have been capable of. Like there's very few. Maybe some of the guys worked with the Beatles, but that's it. There's not like a ton, or in 67, like they're just like, shit, we're just having fun with the four tracks. Like shit, we have 2 more tracks now, right? That's pretty cool.
But so I said before that like this album, it sounds half finished. It's unavoidably half complete.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of material, and there's a lot of the songs that when I listen to them, they're very clearly, it's like, dude, this is like a temp idea. This is early version of something. This is a man putting down an idea on tape for future reference. That's what this is. You know what I mean? To make a full song out of it later. But I will say, that being said, in comparison to the other 3 albums, in my opinion, Are You Experienced, Axis Bold as Love, Electric Ladyland, those 3 names that like, I can even feel like the Mount Rushmore-ness as I say them, In my opinion, this album has less like the weaker tracks are stronger than the weaker tracks on those albums are. So here's my hot take. Ready?
Let's go. I'm excited.
Jimi Hendrix was a incredibly inconsistent songwriter. Like at times horrendously inconsistent.
Okay.
Jimi Hendrix. So he's first and foremost known as being a virtuoso on the guitar. Okay.
Yes.
A man who was able to just find ways to cause an electric guitar to produce sounds and tones and notes and soulful expressions, both like abstract and very like traditionally like pure and even better than the masters before him. All of it, right? He's mostly known as a
channel God
instrumental. Yeah, he could channel God on an electric guitar.
Yeah,
he's first and foremost known for being an instrumental virtuoso. However, he's also rightfully known as a fucking transcendent songwriter. Some of the songs that this man wrote are like still, to me, like the most mind-boggling, like I wish I wrote that. I wish I came up with that. I wish I could even be able to come up with that. Songs like Castles Made of Sand.
Oh my God, yeah.
The Wind Cries Mary.
Little Wing.
Okay? And many, many more. He did this not a few times, like over and over again. Just holy fuck, that is beautiful, profound, inventive, creative, original.
Iconic.
Like they're songs that you fully get and hear all the melodic stuff that's in there the first time that you hear it. It's accessible, and it's also like recursive and like endlessly deep, and like you can find new little aspects of, because he's playing a million fucking notes a minute, and he doesn't repeat, he doesn't come back around. Each time that he plays this next repeated section, he plays it differently. There's new information in there, like.
And there's
unreal.
No one else like him. There's no one else like him. Like,
these
really.
songs, he has written some of the best written songs that there are.
Yeah.
And I feel he at times also would write just fucking dog shit. Just like what the fuck is this?
I'm not disagreeing with you. But do you have any that stand out to you?
Yeah. Okay. So first example, just on First Rays of the New Rising Sun alone. Okay. This song Straight Ahead. Okay.
I don't like that. Well, I'm not going to say I don't like it, but...
you don't like the song? Or you don't like that I'm saying that Straight Ahead sucks?
No. I get what you mean. I'm not saying I don't like the song, but I get where you're coming from. That is one of the weaker songs on this album, I think.
Straight Ahead. Listen to the song, everybody. Straight Ahead sounds like an AI made a Jimi Hendrix song.
Okay, that's very harsh.
It is literally, it's a fucking mishmash of Jimi Hendrix tropes. There is no fucking through line. Like what is happening?
Yeah.
I'm listening to this song. I'm like, what am I listening to? Upon like the fourth or fifth listen to that song, I sort of kind of started to think, maybe what this is really actually like Jimmy had a sort of like kind of avant-garde sort of color on his palette of songwriting things, because like for example, within the songs that he wrote, he isn't an artist that would be like, oh, he blends together blues and psychedelic rock and folk and these things into this new seamless style that all of his songs sound like. He's actually more like, okay, on this song I'm going psychedelic.
Yeah.
On this song I'm going blues.
Dude, I'm
going rock.
I had
the
same kind of realization about his songwriting, actually. Was like, what I started doing was, as I listened to his whole catalog, I started kind of categorizing his songs into these categories that he would do. He has like the tripped out psychedelic Are You Experienced, 1983, A Merman I Should Turn to Be, Drifting, what's another one on this one? I
really like Drifting.
I really like Drifting too. It's very pretty. Yeah. But and like Hey Baby, New Rising Sun. These like almost kind of sci-fi, like you can tell his imagination is bigger than what he's even able to get down on tape. Like he wants this big like operatic sci-fi. I think like listen to 1983 A Merman I Should Turn to Be. That off Electric Ladyland. That I feel like is he like accomplishes it, or at least as close as he ever got to in his life. This big like kind of sci-fi tripped out kind of epic kind of song.
Yeah.
He gets there with that one. And I think when you listen to like Hey Baby, New Rising Sun, which I would say is probably my least favorite on this album, solely because, not because I think it didn't have potential or that it was particularly bad or something. It felt like a little bit of like well-trodden ground for him maybe, but because it was like clearly like what you said, he was putting this down for later to come back to and like, let's get this down. And like, then I'm going to go nuts with overdubbing and me and Eddie are going to like trip everything out. And like, it's going to become what it should be in the mixing stage kind of thing or overdubs.
It could be.
If you listen to it, it's like guitar, bass, drums, Jimmy singing, that's it. And it's like, dude, there's not a single song.
I mean, there are some songs, even ones on the first 3 albums where the first 3 albums, sort of all of them, well, okay, not so much Electric Ladyland, but mainly Are You Experienced and Axis Bold as Love. It's like I listen to those albums and I'm like, okay, all the songs on here that aren't famous are just like inaccessible. They're like like what is happening? What is going on?
I was going to try to nail you in this episode. I was going to pick random songs from those albums and say, how does this one go? Because I agree with you. There's stuff on there.
All the ones that aren't famous.
Yeah.
Right? And all the songs on those albums that are famous are fucking iconic. They're household name songs that children can just start singing.
Yeah.
You know, Purple Haze. Don't, don't, like everything has such a strong ear hook.
Yeah.
That latches you. That, you know what I mean? You can play it in a commercial. You can play it in a movie soundtrack. And it's like, people will start singing along. People can play air guitar along with his famous guitar solos, his famous ones.
Yeah.
But the non-famous tracks on his albums are just, and some of them have like multiple overdubs and like full levels of production. Some of them, not all of them. Like you're saying, some of them don't.
I would say more often than not. Like he really got in the weeds in the studio for the most part. But yes.
And so I don't know. I don't understand. So it could be what my first impression was, which is like, holy crap, this dude is just such an inconsistent songwriter. Or it could be that just like how he's like, okay, I got my blues zone, I got my rock zone, I got my this zone.
Tripped out.
He may have had like I also have like a Captain Beefheart zone. I also have an avant-garde, intentionally angular, and okay, the verse is in B and the chorus is in B flat, and we just change. You know what I mean? I also feel that way about like Room Full of Mirrors, Stepping Stone.
Stepping Stone, I kind of see. Room Full of Mirrors is like my favorite song on this.
It is?
I love Room Full of Mirrors.
Oh, shit.
I love Room Full of Mirrors. That might be my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how you could feel that way about Room Full of Mirrors. That one feels like a pretty completed like thought to me.
Okay, maybe I just haven't accessed into it yet.
Yeah.
Which is fine. And you know, I'm sure that, you know, much like Captain Beefheart songs and a lot of avant-garde music, it's like once you get it, you get it.
Yeah.
But they stand out in contrast to these other songs that Jimmy is really, really known for, which are just, they require no effort.
Well,
they will come and find you. Even if you don't like this style of music, like, too bad. It's gonna get you. You like it.
Yeah. What I will say in kind of defense of some of his like maybe more album track type stuff that doesn't hit like Purple Haze, it's kind of like, well, what artist does have a repertoire where every single song hits like fucking Purple Haze? You know what I mean? Like that's a good question. You know, unless, okay, the Beatles are unfair. You can't say the Beatles.
You can't say the Beatles.
Can't say the Beatles because then I would be wrong. This point would be moot. But no, other than the Beatles.
That is a good point. Is to say that, you know, the album tracks that
they're less
all the other
good.
ones that,
It's
all
like,
the other ones that are not as famous are not as good.
Well, sure.
That is true. But here's what the difference is to me is I feel that what's more normal is that the rest of the album tracks are full of like there's songs where it's like, yeah, I get it. It's just not that exciting. It's just not that special. You know, it's like, no, I get the idea. I see the song that you're playing. Yeah. But yeah, it's all right, I guess. Or I don't like it, you know? But Jimmy's ones are like, what the fuck is this? What even is this? You see what I mean? Like, I mean, on Are You Experienced, I mean, there's like, Can You See Me, Lover Confusion, the ironically titled Remember, which I don't remember.
I don't remember that one either.
Exactly.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I couldn't remember it, and then it came on, and I was like, wait, this is a good one. It's kind of good. I just didn't remember it.
You got Ain't No Tellin', Little Miss Lover. It's like, what the? Yeah. You get what I'm saying.
There's very few, I will agree with you that they're not as like profoundly amazing as like his big famous singles or whatever, but like very few of them are like bad. Like they're not like, oh my God, turn this off. Like, at least not for me.
Okay.
You know, like I said earlier, like for the most part, those 3 records are fucking like, yeah, they are what they are. Like they're amazing. You know, they were recognized as such in his lifetime, you know, for a reason. And I kind of, for the most part, agree with that. Although I'm totally with you. Like I listened to those this week, and I was like, wait, what is this one? Like,
right.
I don't even know this one,
dude. It's like, you mean this is a track on one of the most venerated rock records ever. This is a song that is on Axis Bold as Love.
Yeah.
And when it comes on, I'm like, wait, have I ever? As far as I know, I've never heard this. You know what I mean?
Well,
that says something, dude. You know? And just to recap real quick, the whole reason why I bring that up is to say that one of the things that I felt in listening to First Raise is that this First Raise suffers from that problem to a lesser degree than his first 3 albums do, I feel.
Right.
I feel that the non-famous ones are stronger on this album than the non-famous ones on his previous albums.
Well, let's talk about why maybe that is, or why we can speculate maybe why that is, because kind of all we can do. I kind of think that Hendrix playing with Billy Cox was like a huge deal for him, because Billy Cox was a guy that he knew in the Army. Hendrix was like a paratrooper. He never made it out of like basic training, but he was like a paratrooper for a minute.
No, he did make it out of basic training.
Oh, he did? He did? Okay. But anyway, Billy Cox was like,
shortly after got kicked out of the Army because he just didn't have a good fucking work ethic, basically.
Yeah.
They're like, you know what?
You are never going to be a Marine. Just leave. Yeah.
Just go.
And it really was like that, too.
Well, he was in the Army. He wasn't. Yeah, whatever. It's hard to become a Marine when you're in the Army. But
okay, whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, right. He basically was just kind of ushered out the door. They were like, you're never going to be an Army man.
That's what they wrote on the official document. Yeah. We'll never be an Army man.
Yeah. But Billy Cox was someone he knew back in his Army days. And Billy Cox was also like a rad bass player, was like a good fucking sick bass player who he played with on like the Chitlin circuit together with this guy.
He was his first collaborator.
Yeah.
Right? They met in basic training, and when they got out of the Army, they played in their very first bands together. He was like, so this album, he's getting back together with his very first bass player ever.
He's going back to his roots. A lot of people don't realize that Hendrix was like a professional sideman. He was like a guitar player for the Isley Brothers. He was a guitar player for, oh my God, what the hell is his name? Shitload of people.
Are you thinking about Wilson Pickett?
Well, I think, yeah, Wilson Pickett.
He also played for Wilson Pickett.
He played for like the Supremes for a minute. And then who's the big rock and roller guy from the 50s that he played with?
Little Richard.
Little Richard, yeah. He played with Little Richard for a long time, and they big time clashed. But this, to me, this sound he's getting at, or he's starting to get at on this record, it feels much more like R&B and like funk, like thinking. Blues is too easy because Hendrix is so bluesy in everything he does. But it's like, it really like, there's like a concerted effort to give this way more of like a fat backbeat. It's way more like rockin' and like kind of Southern feeling on some of it to me.
It's true.
Like Nightbird Flying, dude. There's parts of that where I'm like, he's like doing like Dwayne Allman shit. Like he's trying to kind of sound Allman Brothers-y. Like he was moving in the direction that everyone else is. He was moving in the same direction as everybody else.
Thank you for putting a name on it because man, that song has always stood out to me and did listening to this. I'm like, what is that flavor
It's
that is
Dwayne
in this
Allman.
song? It's Dwayne Allman. Thank you.
It's totally Allman Brothers shit.
Answered that.
Yeah. It's like a Southern rock kind of feel. Even like Easy Rider kind of has that. Like God. But then you got like songs like Freedom and Isabella, which are just like he finally has like a partially black band, not just like a couple like British guys, you know?
Now he only has one British guy.
Yeah, and there's some where it is like the full band of gypsies, like Easy Rider and I forget and Room Full of Mirrors. Those are actually, that's the band of gypsies on those two, which is crazy. But I think that's where he was going, and he sounds really excited on this stuff. He sounds like he has the stuff that's finished, at least, it really sounds like he has like a head full of steam. And in the sense that like almost like, how many of these songs sound like track one? Like, let's fucking kick this motherfucker off.
Yeah,
like
that's
so
true.
many of them we talk about that a lot. Me and Brandon talk about whenever we're like producing music together and we finally have to get to the point of like creating a track list. It's like we ask each other, which one's track one? Yeah. Which one's track one? Like, what's the obvious standout? Like, you gotta lead with this, right? And usually when it comes to our stuff, there's like one or two if we're lucky. And with this, it's like Freedom, Isabella, Nightbird Flying, from definitely Dolly Dagger, Easy Rider, maybe even Room Full of Mirrors.
There's another one, In From the Storm.
In From the Storm, like
that sounds like track one.
They're all these like super heavy, like bombastic.
A track one song is a Here We Go song.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, and like almost like a song like if you had to encapsulate the journey you're about to go on with this album, you could like have you could fully feel that journey in like a small way from this first song. Like you get a full bite of the apple from this very first track, right?
Yeah.
And it's like so many of these songs have that feeling. And it's crazy because it makes me think like stuff like Stepping Stone, maybe that was like an attempt at like, okay, let's get this sound onto tape. And maybe it was just kind of not really. Maybe that would have never fucking made it onto this record. You know what I mean?
I want to speculate about this, which is like okay, because I was talking about the strong songs and the weak songs and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like why are these bizarre sort of like mishmash of ideas, something that seemingly is like a placeholder or like an idea to come back to later or something like that, you know?
Right.
Like why?
Well, I think because to answer your question is because they literally were, and they probably were never supposed to be released in this state.
Exactly.
Know?
But it did make sense though. What you're saying is that there's new members in the band, there's new collaborators in the studio, so that they would stand to reason that okay, maybe now the decision making is different. Now the songs are different. You know, maybe what I'm perceiving as being something that's like accidental or off in some way actually was completely intentional.
I think so.
And it's like, okay, this is what I'm doing now, you know?
Especially like a song like Room Full of Mirrors that didn't quite connect with you. I think it's like, if you just listen to the production on it, it's like, no, dude, they were clearly like, that was what they were trying to do.
They spent
like,
days, and you can see on this glorious little Wikipedia table of recording dates that, they spent, wait, which song is it?
Room Full of Mirrors.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, at least.
I mean, it's not even clear. It's possibly 4 months of work on it, you know, like.
Yeah, at least 4 days, but within within June and July, possibly several days working on this one song.
Totally.
So obviously what they ended up with on tape was some degree of intentionality. But what I was going to say is, I think one possible explanation is because Jimmy himself was not involved in the final decision-making on what material to put on this album and what material to leave off.
Yes. And that speaks back to like what I was saying about like the curation behind his other records. Like you feel the artistry behind what is on there, right? Like it feels like he put it there, right?
Exactly.
Whereas this just kind of feels like, here's what we got.
I never knew how like sort of aggro and controlling and like very intense he was about controlling every last little aspect and how much of sort of like a diva in some ways it sounds like he was at times.
I think the glossing over of like what he was really like has been like, there's been 40 years, 50 years of that happening now, you know?
He was a perfect angel baby who died when he was 27. He died too soon, Nate.
Well, he did.
He died too soon.
He did.
Yeah, but Jimi Hendrix, no, he died too soon. He was taken from us too soon, Nate.
Okay,
he was perfect in every way.
Yeah.
He was an innocent flower child, Nate.
He was my baby brother. He was perfect in every way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I had a baby brother. Yeah. No, he like had really bad alcohol problems, anger problems,
violence.
He like was not kind to women in his life.
Second hot take. Mm-hmm. I wish you could see Nate's face right now. You
can if you're on YouTube.
If you're on YouTube, you can see this look on his face that I am sort of familiar with.
Which Brandon's about to make me sad, and I have to talk about some mean thing he's going to say about this record that I really like, and about this person I adore and look up to. And here we go. Now we're going to talk about how Jimi Hendrix was like a fucking wife beater alcoholic. Let's go. Okay, fun. Let's go. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Yes, he beat his girlfriend.
It turns out, from the research, which I had never done, because I'd never looked past just the accepted legend and story about him, and just what people just say about him on the surface, like, oh yeah, no, he channeled God. He was, wow, he was just such a great artist and all that, but they don't say anything else about him. And all those things are true, obviously. Yeah. But one of the things that they say about any member of the 27 Club, all these different people who died when they were 27, and is that he died too soon. Hot take. When you look at Jimi Hendrix's lifespan, when you look at the things, what his life was like,
I'm going to kill you if you're
the way that he ended up living it.
Say.
His death was not premature. It was accelerated. His life was not cut short. His life was accelerated. Okay. The things that this man dealt with, what his childhood was like, the way in which he used alcohol and drugs, like it is not, I don't think that it's like, wait, you mean he died when he was 27 one night after doing too many drugs? What a surprise. Oh my God, what a fucking tragedy out of nowhere. No, dude. Okay. If you know addicts, if you know drug users, if you know alcoholics, if you know people with like troubled pasts like this, the way that Jimmy lived and the way that he went out and the time that he went out is really not that much of an outlier.
No.
Really.
You're right. You're right. I'm just shocked this is the direction this episode's taking, but you're right. You're right. He lived, I think an accelerated life is a very apt way to put it. It's crazy. I was thinking about this, just reading about him, which was just like, there's like a 6-month period on his life that is like, might as well be a novel, because it's like every single thing that he did was like so important because his life was so short, and because also
but
all
it
those
was that
things were
important
like,
even before he died. Even if he didn't die, it's still, dude, these 3 albums that we were talking about, the ones that he really, even if you include Band of Gypsies, okay, he goes from the time of having no band. He doesn't have a band.
Right.
He is a session player.
Yep.
To that he has recorded and released and toured in support of and become a fucking huge superstar from Are You Experienced and Axis Bold as Love and Electric Ladyland and Band of Gypsies is like less than 3.5 years.
Yeah, it's fucking insane.
It's
really
fucking insane.
Yeah.
Both his first and second album, which are both like monumental, earth-shattering, game-changing albums, they both came out in the same year.
Yeah. Yeah. Electric Ladyland, I was under the misconception that it came out later than it did. But it came out in like 68. It was like the next
right
year.
Away.
Yeah, it was like right
away.
after those. Yeah, so really this is
and
the
then he
one.
Died.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, this is the one it was kind of, people were probably like, hey man, it's been a minute for him, at least, at this point. It had been 1970.
It was about to come out the same year that Band of Gypsies came out.
That's true.
He was about to release 2 in 1 year again.
That's true. I mean, he was a fucking machine.
So this is how busy he was and how quickly all of these things happen. Is all of that is true, but normally for an artist to be that productive in the studio, that means that during that period of time, you bury yourself in the studio. But he's
touring.
Exactly. He was doing that while making like huge historical live appearances on multiple continents and like sitting in with and like having these other like sessions with other artists and you know what I mean?
So you learned some things about him that were probably relatively unsavory. I read about some of that stuff too. But in addition, I also read that like, I mean, he just had like a horrible childhood, which is not to excuse anything.
This is mainly what I was talking about is not so much the things that he did to other people, but what was done to him.
Yeah, like he was pretty much like abandoned as a kid. His mom died really early. His dad was pretty rough on him, kind of like absent father stuff. And it's like, according to one of his girlfriends, she said that he told her that he may have even been molested at one point by like someone. She said someone in like the army or something like that. So. It's just like
not while Jimmy was in the army.
He was in the army. No, like when he was a kid, his dad was in the army. So it was like someone his dad knew or something like that. So it's just like, and to me, what that
dude, hang on, just to stay on his childhood just for a second.
Yeah.
Okay. Imagine you've got 5 siblings. Okay. And so 3 of them were like either adopted by someone else, so left the household.
Yes.
Or taken into foster care. And then the one remaining brother who stayed in the household with him, who he was closest with, would also periodically be taken into foster care, come back, and father is abusive.
Yep.
And like, I mean, there's no like underestimating or like undercutting or there's no overestimating how consequential the like presence of an unsafe situation can have on a child's psyche,
Yes.
and then therefore for the rest of that human's life.
Yes. And how
And it
much
can never be taken away.
No. Yeah. And like how much of that can influence your relationships and attitudes later in life. And like, oh yeah, maybe I do need to find solace in the bottom of a bottle. Maybe that's how he thought to do it, you know?
It's so psychologically affecting that I promise you, man, I've seen it, man. I've seen it. And those who know, and I know you know too, that when those issues are that experienced that strongly at that young age, later on in life, it becomes it's even more complex than like, oh my gosh, I've got problems and I feel better when I'm drunk, so I better drink. It's the compulsion is deeper than that. It's like it's beyond explanation. You can't even understand or explain why you are irrationally drawn and pulled to use these substances, to drink. And when you drink, it's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing, which is described with Hendrix. That's what he was like, man.
Like he was like a complete piece of shit when he was drunk is what I read.
And a gentle, super nice dude when he wasn't, right? Mm-hmm. This is I'm telling you, man, it fits a pattern. It fits a pattern. And the world is full of people who are not superstars who die around that same stage of life where he died, in similar related kinds of circumstances as he did, you know, who go fucking ham and just like, you know, work themselves and like dedicate themselves overly to something in particular in the way that he did with his music.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's, to me, I think you can hear it in his lyrics on this stuff. I like one of my bigger takeaways listening to this stuff was I was like, man, he sounds really like lonely. Like he sounds like a sad guy. Like he sounds like, it sounds to me like Jimi Hendrix he never found like a person in his life he could like truly find solace with. He truly, all he had was to chase the muse, and that was it. And that's all he knew how to do. And that's like, thank God for us, I guess, that he was so good at doing that. Right. But like, to me, like when I listen to Drifting, incredibly sad song. Angel, incredibly sad song. And then like Belly Button Window, dude, it's a song written from the perspective of an unborn child in his mother's womb. And he's looking out the belly button window and he's saying, are you sure you want me around? I can hear you talking about me and it sounds like you don't. So you still
Holy shit.
So he says, you still have about 200 days to make your mind up because he was like, it was like early in the pregnancy.
What the fuck?
So the song is literally about him being like,
check out this reversal of things. Nate being the lyric dropper. I'm loving this. You're getting into it.
I can listen to words.
He's becoming
Look at the date on that song. August 22nd is when he did that entire thing. And that song is just him and a guitar. So it's one of the last things he did. And it's like, he's basically just saying like, man, that's how he goes through. That's how he feels. It's just like, I don't even know if I was ever wanted. Like he was almost basically saying like, do you regret giving birth to me because you you weren't around, you abandoned me. Like, you know,
I'm going to read these lyrics, man.
Profoundly sad shit.
All right, here it is. Well, I'm up here in this womb and I'm looking all around while I'm looking out my belly button window. And I see a whole lot of frowns, and I'm wondering if they don't want me around.
Dude.
Okay.
It's so sad. It's so sad.
See, this is...
And that's a product of what he went through in his childhood. And unfortunately for the people around him and for him, it's probably expressed itself in really negative, unsavory ways. But...
and this is why I say, and this is why I was getting all sarcastic in the beginning when you brought it up. It's like, no, he was a beautiful flower child who was taken from us unexpectedly too soon.
He was a human being.
If it wasn't for these,
he was a human being who had a lot of shit, just like anybody. Like he had a lot of shit he was dealing with.
Exactly, and they that's the thing is like, I mean, look, it is everything that you can say about him, and that he was special and he was unique and he was valuable. It's so true, and I feel that one of the things that is a shame though is that the point is lost that like there are so many other people out there that's also true about, that suffer in this way that he did, that his fate and his story is actually not unique. There are so many people who experience that type of shit and it ends up killing them, and it ends up taking them out, and they live these lives, these stories. But this individual just happened to be, thankfully, to be, really famous, to just kind of like fly a flag for the rest of the problem that a lot of people are in,
I wouldn't even say, really famous. It's like he was just a great artist, thank God, and that made him famous. But it's like, first and foremost, he was just a great artist. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I read some of the same stuff you did, and it did kind of change.
Right. And I never knew any of this. I never knew any of this about him before researching for this episode.
Yeah. I mean, think about this too. I mean, he went from age 15 to never having played a guitar to getting a guitar at age 15, and then 12 years later dying the greatest guitar player who will ever live. Like, it's fucking crazy. Like, when you say an accelerated life, to me, that is the aspect of it where I'm just like, wow. Like, because an accelerated life in the terms of someone who was like abused and had a really hard upbringing and then turned to drugs and all this stuff, their life is accelerated in a way that is to be expected. And like you're saying, is not unique, right? And he's not special in that sense, right?
Right.
Where he is special is like, and what does make him unique and special is this dude got a guitar after I did. He was older than me. He was older than me than when we started playing guitar for the first time.
He started playing when he was 15.
Yes.
Okay. Now, in the zone of like professional level guitar players, that is very late.
You got to start before then. Yeah, you got to.
That is possibly the latest.
It's got to be your dad's
of any
idea.
Notable guitar player.
Yeah, like it basically has to be your dad's idea if you're going to become a professional athlete or a professional musician.
I started when I was 12, and and you started when you were 12. I'm speaking for myself. I will, for the rest of my life, always, my ceiling is to skate along the bottom edge of professional level abilities.
Same.
You know what I mean?
Same.
Like,
yeah.
Like the people who are like truly, no, you're actually really worth the money and really good. They started when they were younger than 10.
Yeah. I mean,
Jimmy started when he was 15.
15, dude. Yeah. And I mean, think about it. We have years on him in the sense of like we started before him, and now we're way older than him than when he died, and we're still nowhere. We'll never even like sniff his ass as far as like guitar playing goes. And I would say that about his contemporary, like I would say that about like Clapton. Like he ran laps around Clapton in his lifetime. And even Clapton with the advantage of 50 more years of experience, you couldn't pay me, if a gun to my head, I would never choose Eric Clapton. Ever. Never in a million years. Nobody would. Yeah.
He ran laps around everybody in this short amount of time. It happened so fast. He played guitar so much in such a short amount of time. He went, okay, got that, next. Okay, got that. Next. So rapidly, so many times in such a short amount of time. His life was accelerated, man.
Based on this, where do you think he was going? Like, I think some people have described this as a transitional album, and I kind of agree. It sounds like he's kind of finding his footing in a new sound.
Okay. When I take stock of all the available info, his life, his whole life situation, and where he was at creatively, what it sounds like he was at, like in terms of his personality developing and changing, and just like the way that he behaved and lived and like interacted with other people, and I listen to this music that's on First Phase. I feel honestly that his death was inevitable. If it didn't happen that day, he's basically gonna constantly keep himself in a state of being likely to die every day.
Yeah.
And then this music honestly feels like the music that someone is making at the end of their run to me. This sounds like he's making music that is like that. So it sounds like the last music that people make. You know what I mean?
It literally was.
but not just in the terms of that. Oh my God! It was like he got hit by a bus.
I get what
he was crossing the street and he got hit by a bus when he was halfway done making his album. Like it sounds like this man was in the process of whether, like he didn't maybe consciously know it, but like writing his last work, because he's just like, and they do say that about a lot of people sometimes that like, you know, okay. He didn't commit it in the traditional way, but this person, like he knew that he didn't have a lot of time left on the world. You know,
Wow.
they say that about people sometimes, and I obviously don't know if that's true about him, but that's the vibe that I get when I listen to this music. Is like
Wow.
he's wrapping it up, man.
Wow. Huh. That's a fascinating take. It's not exactly what. I mean, I'm trying to think of it more of maybe a rose-colored glasses kind of situation. like what? Like, I think he would have played with P-Funk. Like, that's kind of what I was thinking, which is way less profound than what you said. But yeah, I kind of thought he would have played with P-Funk. Like, that's kind of what I thought he would do. Like, I just think of like everything that the 70s is, and like we just did an Isaac Hayes episode, and it's like, you know, Black Moses is like, say what you will about it, it is so 70s, right? It's like an album that like couldn't have come out any other time. And I just feel like as like intrinsic as Jimi Hendrix feels to the 1960s and like psychedelia and all that stuff, dude, to me, a lot of those, the Jimi Hendrix Experience band, that was a band that was trying to capture a fad, and it was called the British Invasion. And that was a band that, like, really listen to those records. They're trying to do the Beatles, right? Yeah, and that's what they're trying to ape off the Beatles, right? A lot of that stuff.
And it was broader than only the Beatles. The Beatles were the vanguard, so to speak, you know. But it was a whole scene, man. The whole flower power thing.
But I mean, Hendrix loved the Beatles, and you can just hear it with the other two guys. Like
but you're right. It's let's surf this flower power wave.
Which again is another reason why I love this material, is because again, this was a band that was like put together for him. It was like they were trying to capitalize on this look and this thing in the zeitgeist, which was like the flower power thing, which he was definitely a part of, and that wasn't like fake or something. But like, this, I think, was the beginning of him like taking a step towards something like truly original and like in his own voice.
That makes sense.
Which I think is reflected again in like someone like Billy Cox like coming on board and like shedding, you know, Noel Redding, who I think, say what you will about him, I don't think he ever really got his role in the world of Jimi Hendrix. Like, he didn't get it. He didn't understand that like the band name is the Jimi Hendrix Experience, and you play bass in that band, and that's it, dude. Like, the fact that he gets to sing songs on those records is crazy to me. Crazy to me that you can put
Imagine
on a Jimi Hendrix.
How much he must have bitched and moaned in order to get that accomplished.
Yes. Because he saw them as like a Beatles type of thing, where like we all get to sing a song, right? And it's like, and think about the precious few sacred little hours of like professionally crafted Jimi Hendrix music that we have, And there are like 3 of those songs where it's Noel Redding singing. It's like, dude, give me a fucking break, dude. He was the only guy, and this is why he got kicked out of the band. It's not because he was a bad bass player. He got kicked out because he was a pain in the ass, and he didn't understand his role in the hierarchy. Everybody else that ever played with Hendrix, they understood, like, we're here to like serve your vision of your music. You're the guy, dude. Like, you are the guy. And Noel Redding never understood that. And I think Hendrix was finally entering a period of time with the right musicians at his side that could speak his musical language and were as sophisticated of musicians as he were, and were as like smart of musicians as he was. And I think he was I think contrary to what you're saying, which is like he's a guy writing his own epitaph, basically, which is like literally true, but like may or may not have been figuratively true. I think he had yet to make his best work. I don't think it would have been this, but I think that we would have seen a Hendrix in the 70s where, like, dude, the 70s was really where that motherfucker belonged. Okay. Like, if you think about his whole look, his whole aesthetic, how the 70s were, the 70s were, I mean, the 70s were a great decade for Black music and Black culture. And he would have been the biggest, most famous Black superstar,
and for guitar solos
and guitar solos and yeah, I mean, the whole decade is like shaped after like the shit that he started, you know what I mean, in so many different ways. You can look at like hard rock bands on one side, and you can look at like super funky shit on the other side, and like you can really find the germ of it all in Jimi Hendrix. So I think he would have been like he would have been like a super mega pop star his whole life, no matter what. But in my heart of hearts, what I wish he could have gotten to a point in his career, because I think he would have loved doing shit like this, is to be almost more like a jazz like player kind of, not like literally playing jazz, but like think about like someone like a Miles Davis or a Coltrane, where like they just like pop up on stuff. They just show up on people's albums, right? They just like are great musicians that just show up on other great musicians' shit, right? I think he would have like excelled in like a role like that, where he could just be a guitar player and just, it's just like, oh my God, did you hear the new fucking Steven Stills album? And it's like, he has Hendrix playing lead on the whole fucking thing. Like, who needs Crosby, Stills, Nash, dude? Like, fuck them. Who cares? He's got Jimmy in his band now. You know what I mean? Or like, oh my God, like Hendrix is guesting on a Zeppelin song or something like that. It's just like,
he was too big of a figure for that.
I think he was too, but I think he could have done that. Like, I really think he could have found he could have found a way into like that kind of, at least that's what I wish. But I think you're right. It's like what I said. I think he would have been like a gigantic pop star forever, no matter what. But like, I would have, like, because I always hear this thing that he was supposedly supposed to play on Bitches Brew, and I'm just like, man, that's crazy, because like he wouldn't have sang and he wouldn't have written anything. Probably he just would have played guitar, you know. And that's always kind of really sparked my imagination, in the sense that like I would have loved to have seen him just do stuff like that, just be a guitar player on stuff, you know, like that would have been fucking cool.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the tragedy of a life like his. It's like it's a trade-off. Yeah. You get this, but it costs something, you know? Right. You don't get it in exchange for nothing.
It's not for free.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it, I think that is one of the things that it costs is, and you can see that in these like kind of, you know, really tragic and tortured lifespans of people who had been abused and really suffered with addiction, is one of the things that they lack is that they don't get the grace of having a lifespan that has kind of like a nice narrative arc to it. Yeah. That has a very satisfying beginning and middle and end. Yeah. You know, it's marked by these sorts of little spurts of chaos and unresolved threads and things that were began that never got concluded and stuff like that. You know, things that happened for no reason and blah blah blah. And there's a lot of unsatisfaction. And I think that is what really, really drives the need for the substances, right? Because there's so much in their life that is just not, there's no reason for it. There's no,
I think it's escapism too. I think he's a hurt person. You hear it in the songs, like they're right there, and it's right there in the music.
One last little tiny thing is, you're so right. He was a sad, tortured person. And my last thing is, I never knew that before looking into him more closely in order to do this episode.
Yeah.
I didn't even fucking realize that.
It's 50 years of kind of whitewashing everything about him. That's what it is, unfortunately. And it's like, that's intentional in a lot of ways too. People want him remembered a certain way because of money.
Yeah, that's true.
That is what it is.
Wow.
And it's like, I know we're saying
now it's my turn to have a
try
less
not
cynical.
to be cynical. Yeah,
right. Yeah, because I when you started to say that, I was like, that's right. Yeah, because he's so inspiring to us, and he's a symbol for like creativity, and like we need him on that pedestal. But no, you're right, man. It's because there are people who make the fucking money, make the cash. It's all about the money. The money.
That's the story of this guy's entire life and his entire death. His death is defined. His death since he died has been defined by other people trying to make money off of him. Like, that's so it.
Sad.
Yeah. And I wish I could say that, his
like so many black entertainers before him and after him. Oh my God.
And I wish I could say that, like, oh, I'm so glad that, like, I'm so glad that, like, his dad got control of his estate and stuff, but it's like, not really.
When you look into the biography, it's like,
yeah, it's kind of fucked up, really.
It really stood out to me how much time. Okay, he's from Seattle.
Yeah.
Then you look at his lifespan. So this dude was a globe-trotting, jet-setting motherfucker. Hopping over here, hopping over there, going here, hanging out with them, blah, blah, blah. New York, London, Germany, all around. It stood out to me, how many times did he go back to Seattle?
A couple times, apparently.
Did he?
A couple times, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
because it really felt like, the only people who have this much like kind of like elbow room from their family is the people who just fucking run away from their family.
Yeah, if you could blame them. I mean, it seemed like
family members that you just don't want to be around anymore.
It was a two-way street. His dad did it first. His dad was like, fuck off first. And then I think Hendrix fucked off. And then, I mean, and it's like, the person that, like, I'm not going to go into this right now. We don't need to go into the interpersonal politics of the Hendrix family. But
that might be
let me just
a
put it
layer
this way.
too deep.
That might be a bonus episode stuff. Let me just put it this way. Like, the fact that the people who control his image and likeness and music now, is it better that it's people who are related to him? I guess. Sort of.
It brings up the age-old question, is blood thicker than water,
I don't know.
When it comes down to it, should it be blood trumps everything? Should it be?
Like, are we glad that when Michael
In
Jackson...
all cases?
Like, are we glad that when Michael Jackson died, his dad took over? Is that good? Are we glad about that? Like, I don't know. It's kind of just the way it goes, but...
And it really does, like... I feel the question mark that it really does deserve to be there,
It does.
I don't know. It's not a straightforward answer. It's not a cut and dry situation.
It's just money, dude. It's just money. Even the people who have, all right, we're not going to do this.
Yeah,
I don't want to do it.
About to get
We're going to get in trouble.
Real cynical.
Yeah. got the new Jimi Hendrix record on tap for 1971. It's called First Rays of the New Rising Sun.
Coming at you. Okay. My favorite songs on this. There's a handful of songs that were way more finished.
Yes.
And obviously way stronger. Mm-hmm. And that ended up on a lot of like compilations, best of Jimi Hendrix type things.
Sure.
Which was a lot of the way that I heard his songs in the 90s when I was a kid. So you got Freedom, Angel, and Dolly Dagger. Of those are my favorites.
Three favorites.
I feel like, and specifically like Dolly Dagger and Angel, I'm like, okay, they belong in the pantheon, you know? And then beyond
so Dolly Dagger's your number one?
Dolly Dagger or Angel, which one? I might like Angel better than Dolly Dagger. I think I do. I think Angel's my favorite song.
Angel is a wonderful song. What I'll say about Dolly Dagger, I would love your thoughts on this, was it is kind of his second stab at... Because Dagger.
Dagger. I was like, wait, I don't get it.
It sounds like, to me, it's kind of his second stab at Foxy Lady to me. Remember how we were talking about you can like almost categorize his songs?
Yep.
Like Stone Free and Stepping Stones sound like Crosstown Traffic to me. Yep. Like they're kind of in that world. And then Dolly Dagger is it's his... And
also a Manic Depression.
Manic Depression, yeah.
That's in whatever that category is.
Yeah. Yes. But yeah, Dolly Dagger is kind of his second take on Foxy Lady to me. Not just because it's about a girl, or maybe because...
Yeah, that's a good call, man. It's just the watch out, here she comes, she's so bad.
Yeah. He's doing it again.
Yeah, dude. And it's with the same... swagger and confidence and sense of humor. He's playing the same character.
He is. You're right. Yeah.
The voice is...
He's
the
like
performer is the same persona.
Awooga Eyes Wolf guy. He's that guy on those songs. Awesome. Yeah. So I would say my...
wait, real quick. So those are just my most favorite.
Gotcha.
But beyond those songs that had been handpicked and put on his best of stuff, I had never heard any of the rest of the songs on this album.
Yeah.
And some of them I really love and I'd never heard before.
Yeah. What about the ones you'd never heard? What's your favorite of the ones that are like brand new to you?
Probably Easy Rider.
Damn, you'd never heard Easy Rider.
I had never heard the song Easy Rider in my life.
That shit rips, dude.
That is a badass song, man. Yeah. And... so I think there's a lot of these other ones on there that they don't stand up to me. See, because this is what I was talking about before in his songwriting. His heights are so high. Mm-hmm. His heights.
I'd put Easy Rider on up there with the other ones you picked. I totally would. That song fucking rips, dude.
But what I'm talking about is the heights of Jimi Hendrix's songs are, like we said, Little Wing, Castles Made of Sand, like Manic Depression, these songs that are just, what else? Purple Haze. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
Bold as Love.
Mm-hmm.
These are like, stop what I'm doing. Like if I'm doing the dishes and I hear that song, I have to like put the dishes around and turn around. Like what the fuck if I'm hearing it for the first time? What is this? Who is this?
Yes.
Tell me who this is right now because I need to know.
Yes.
I don't think Easy Rider it's not
like quite there.
Those. It's not like a wow, this changes what is possible in music for me now that I've heard this
I
song.
just think it's sick as fuck. That's kind of where I'm at with it. It's just fucking...
And I agree. Ugh. It is so badass.
Sick, nasty, fucking badass song.
Yeah,
like,
great style, great vibe.
Yeah.
So much swagger, confidence. The guitar tone is just fucking nasty. The riff is so much fun. And I love, too, that's one of the songs that was played by the Band of Gypsies band, which is an all-black rock and roll band.
Imagine that, dude.
Come on, man.
Imagine that.
It's
Imagine,
so badass.
Imagine if you could look back at the 70s and be like, the best rock band of the 70s was a fucking all black band with Jimi Hendrix. Like, because it would have been true, even though I think the Band of Gypsies were completely kaput at this point, but like still.
Man, it would have been so dope.
Those are good ones. So you said Freedom, Isabella, and Dolly Dagger? Or no, you said Freedom Angel,
Dolly Dagger,
Dolly
Easy
Dagger,
Rider.
Easy
I love
Rider.
In From the Storm.
Okay. Yeah, that one's sick.
Exactly. Badass riff. And I also love that song, My Friend. Just the one of just him like hanging out in the bar, hanging out in the pub, just singing a song. It's so dope.
That was going to be
unique.
Very unique. That was going to be to start off the ones that I really loved. Well, let's start with
your first one. Okay,
My Friend is probably my favorite song on the record.
Really?
I think it's the best.
Wow.
Like, you want to talk about, we keep talking about his songwriting. I think it's like the best song that he has on here. It is.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
I think it's like, we talk about he like plays these like characters, and there's this, he famously like hated his voice and thought he was like a terrible singer. And I never got that. I don't agree with him on that. I get why he would feel that way and why he would think that. But
it's not the traditional good
singer
frontman voice. Yeah.
No. Yeah. And he clearly had like a range that he could sing in, and that was kind of it. But like this one is where he's taking this much more like softer kind of like, it's almost like cooing. Yeah. And it's closer in like a kind of almost like a Dylan-y vibe. He just sounds like fucking too cool for anyone. And it's like he's telling a story, and it's like very engaging. And they have all this overdubs of like, the bar room sound effects and stuff going on. It's just, it is very unique. And it wasn't even part of these sessions. If you look on there, it was recorded in '68. So this was like it was like a throwaway song from one of his other albums that they just put on this.
Oh, interesting.
Which is interesting. So who knows? That probably never would have made it onto his fourth album, But
see, there you go, man. There's probably a reason why it was never included, because it really doesn't fit into one of these Hendrix song categories that we've sort of established that exist in this discussion, right? This one doesn't fit in one of those containers.
No, and it's because it was probably a style or something that maybe he'd moved on from. Because like you can tell the overall like idea for this was like hard rock funk thing, like R&B thing.
Right.
Like,
look at the songs that he finished. I mean, Freedom and Dolly Dagger are probably the two that
Isabella,
it sounds like or were brought the closest to completion.
I think Isabella, like, think about Freedom, Isabella, Nightbird Flying, Room Full of Mirrors, Dolly Dagger, and Easy Riding. He's making like a hard rock album. He is like fucking going balls to the wall, so who knows? But I'm really glad you brought up My Friend, because I love that song. That's probably my favorite single song on the whole thing. And then I would say we talked about them both earlier, but I would definitely say for me, Room Full of Mirrors like totally works. I think it's like kind of a brilliant song, actually.
I guess I just don't get it yet.
I think like the way, because I kind of,
it's a bad song and you're wrong. That's
it could be that.
Possible.
It could be that. But I think that I'm going to err on the side of I think this Jimi Hendrix song is good. Actually, I'm going to place money on
bold.
That one. Yeah,
wow.
I'm going to place some money on that one.
Are you willing to stake your reputation on that this Jimi Hendrix song is good?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Absolutely. That is the low hanging fruit I'm going to pick right now. And I'm going to leave Brandon on the side of actually this Jimi Hendrix song is not that great. But
actually, everyone, this Jimi Hendrix song is actually bad.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Have fun with that over there. Seems like a cold side of the couch, but
what could go wrong?
Yeah. But no, I think it's a fair take because it's kind of a crazy song, but I just love the production and how it kind of informs, the lyrics. Like he's singing about, what he's basically singing about is like ego, like recovering from like having too big of an ego. Like it sounds like he possibly had suffered from the wonderful thing that is ego death at a certain point before he wrote that song, because he's saying, I used to live in a room full of mirrors. All I could see was me. It's like he was completely encumbered and encompassed with himself. He was just being selfish and self-centered.
Everything that's going on has to do with me.
Yes. Yeah. And he was probably loving it at the time. And he's coming to a place of realization that maybe that was bad or stupid. And the way they use the production on the guitars to kind of reference mirrors is just really interesting and well done. And it's like,
that's some Eddie Kramer shit, I'm sure, dude.
Yeah, and I think Jimmy stuff. I think Eddie Kramer
did
it.
They were partnership for sure.
Did it, but Jimmy was like, you have to do this. Make this sound, and Eddie Kramer did it. So I would say Room Full of Mirrors, My Friend, those are probably my two favorites. But also, I think like Nightbird Flying, like how we talked about, it has this really cool kind of Southern rock feel to it. Because like Hendrix spent a lot of time in Nashville and in the South, and it sounds like that. That's what that song sounds like. And it's like, that is really a unique place for any Jimi Hendrix song to be in. We talk about all these like little categories all his songs were in. That one to me sounds pretty new, like even more new. Like I would even give him credit for like Freedom, Isabella, like Dolly Dagger, Easy Rider. Those are like, it's like he's doing like a newer kind of funk R&B, like harder funk rock R&B thing that I wouldn't say The Experience like could do. So I would give him the credit that he is in kind of new territory with a lot of those songs. But even among those new songs, none of them are like more new for him than Nightbird Flying, because there's also kind of this cool Southern thing going on with that one. Maybe Easy Rider sort of has that too, but like, so yeah, those would be my three. We've kind of already talked about the ones that didn't land for us. I think it's clearly like the second.
What ones didn't land for you? I'm curious about, because I, you know what I think about Straight Ahead, which is written by AI, and I'm convinced of it.
I'm going to revisit
Hey Baby
that one.
is also just it's obviously an idea being it's a demo being put down onto tape. It's so fucking obvious.
Yeah.
Even in the beginning, dude, the chords. Here's my theory. Hang on. Let me look at this little table that says what was recorded when. Okay. Mm-hmm. Here's my theory. Okay. Hey Baby, July 1st.
That one's earlier, really.
And then Angel, check. See, I'm a fucking genius. You want to know how smart I am?
July 23rd. Yeah, what are you getting at here?
Hey Baby was recorded July 1st. Angel was recorded July 23rd. Okay. The chords of Hey Baby in the beginning, I don't know this. I just know this by listening to it. This is the embryo of the idea for the chord shape for Angel.
Interesting. Very well could be. You could be totally right about that. That's interesting.
In the beginning, the intro part, there's that whole section before like he starts singing.
Yeah.
Like the song changes and now he's singing the song called Hey Baby. There's that whole intro portion. I promise you, that intro portion was like cannibalized and reinterpolated
into
and
Angel,
taken and made into a new song, which was Angel.
Totally could have been. Yeah, I mean,
and so therefore, I really fucking doubt Jimmy would have kept that recording on the album.
Yeah, I think so.
No
I think
way.
you're totally right. And you could say that about so much of this stuff, and that's what's sad is there's like 8 or 9 totally done like rad songs that like was kind of it. And then, Beginnings, it's a non-starter.
You don't like Beginnings. Dude, what are you doing? You were like, dude, to go into these fucking stupid pun land.
I'm sorry. I know, I've done it a couple times today.
With your song Pun Land.
Oh my God.
I don't want to go to your pun land.
I've done too many puns on this episode, huh?
No, it's good. I'm actually enjoying it.
No, you're right.
You should keep it up. You should see how many more you can get in.
For me, Beginnings, I just think it's another one of those examples of like, this would never have made the album. And I'm not convinced this is like a real song. It's like, this was like a way for, it was like a notebook for him to jot his ideas down. That's like all that was.
What the fuck is Astro Man?
That one's kind of cool. I actually kind of like that one. That one's where he's kind of singing about like superheroes and stuff. Here he comes to save the day. It starts that way. Yeah. That's Astro Man.
Oh,
that one's kind of cool.
Dude, that's the one. It sounds like Astro Man sounds like a fucking Dead Kennedys song.
Interesting. Do 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 do. He comes to save the day. Yeah, that's a wild one.
It's a Dead Kennedys song. I'm telling you,
that's a wild one. Yeah, so those would probably be my favorite. And Belly Button Window is notable in just being like profoundly sad and fucked up.
Okay, now that you have pointed out what it is, I'll be honest with you. I saw the title. I heard him say, "I'm looking out my belly button window," and I'm guilty of
checked out a little bit.
Yeah, what's the word? Like when you of prejudice.
Okay.
Because of all the hippiness and all, I assumed it was like, okay, this is like a chakra thing. Oh, your central, your third eye. I get it. All right, yeah, I'm looking out my third eye. Cool, man. And I just stopped paying attention to what the lyrics were, which is such a huge missed opportunity on my part. I'm so glad that you pointed out what it's actually about, because holy fuck, I need to go back and listen to it again.
It is like the song that like undermines your entire like thesis of Jimi Hendrix, and it was like basically one of his last songs too, which is crazy.
Right? Yeah, I'm looking at the timeline of when it was recorded. It is
August 22nd. It's like one of the last things.
It was on the second to the last day.
Yeah.
That he ever recorded
yeah.
anything in his life.
Well, now, just a real quick side tangent before we wrap this episode up. So, there is another.
You're telling me that there's another Jimi Hendrix album? You fucking guy.
There's another one.
You were intentionally holding on to this entire time, weren't you?
I'm just going to tell you what it is. We don't have to talk about it too much because there's not a lot to say about it because no one's heard it. But so
no one's heard it.
After this,
everybody chat, what the fuck is Nate talking about right now?
I know. After these sessions, right before he left for Europe and then died, okay? He had a tape recorder in his apartment in New York and a Martin acoustic guitar. And he sat down and he recorded, I think it's like 10 completely unique songs that aren't on any of this shit. It was the one that he wrote on acoustic guitar and it's acoustic guitar and singing. I'm so excited to talk about this. Acoustic guitar and singing. It's just him and acoustic guitar singing 10 songs that no one's heard on this this tape, right?
You looked right in the camera when you said that. It was amazing.
And and he put the tapes in a black box.
Up his ass.
No. He put the tapes in a black box and he tied the tapes with his headband and he gave them to Mitch Mitchell after these sessions were done.
These are all things that people do when they know that they're about to die, by the way, but go ahead.
Listen to me. Jesus. He said to Mitch, hey,
just in case anything happens to me.
No.
Sorry, go ahead.
He was saying, Mitch, can you listen to these tracks for me and start thinking of rhythm ideas on the drums? Think about how we would accomplish this. And the crazy thing about it, it's an album that is basically was supposed to accompany like a cartoon of some kind. Ooh. And it was like a concept album about a black superhero. And it was basically loosely autobiographical. It was like about a black superhero who like becomes a rock star or whatever. And it was like supposed to be a concept album that was going to have an accompanying film,
like a multimedia project.
It was supposed to have an animated like cartoon film to go with it.
Amazing.
And the album was I don't know what the album was supposed to be called, but it's called the Black Gold Tapes. I think because it's like, the holy grail of Jimmy stuff, right? So Mitch Mitchell someone asked him about it, and like a reporter asked Mitch Mitchell about it. He's like, "Oh, I have no idea. I'm pretty sure when he died, they like looted his apartment, and like that's if that ever existed, if it does exist, it's gone." And so the report,
But he gave it to. But didn't you say he gave it?
He
to
did,
Mitch
but
Mitchell?
Mitchell forgot because he died so shortly after this. It just totally slipped his mind. He never even listened to it. So him and this guy, the reporter, they go up into Mitch Mitchell's attic because Mitch Mitchell's like, you know what, though? I do have that acoustic that he recorded that stuff with. So they go up into his attic, they show him the acoustic guitar, and then they're looking around, rummaging around Mitch Mitchell's shit. This is in like the 80s or early 90s. And they find the black gold tapes with the headband still tied. He had never even untied it or listened to it, right? So they untie it together and they sat down with this unique original tape, and they sat and they listened to the whole thing. Supposedly only about 4 people alive have ever heard the whole thing. If you want a taste of it, they released the first song as the very final track of a box set that came out about 10 years ago called like West Coast Seattle Boy, I think is what the box set's called. I didn't even know that. So last night, I'm fucking stoned as shit trying to fucking listen to Jimi Hendrix for this. And then I'm like, oh my God, they released one of the Black Gold tapes. So I listened to it. It's very cool. It's very like sketch, you know, as you'd expect. It's him, but it is like a new song I've never heard before. And then if you look at the supposed rest of the track listing, I think the only other songs that are familiar, I think Astro Boy is on it, and I think Machine Gun is on it. But it's like him with an acoustic guitar. So that.
But why is he holding the stuff back?
Well,
Mitch
the
Mitchell.
Hendrix estate has it now. And they're holding it back because I think it's the last good thing they have left. There's nothing else. I mean, you heard this shit. This is their best attempt at album number 4, right? We both agreed that it's like, you know, it's great, but like it's not what it would have been. It would have been totally different, you know?
Yeah.
So like if this is the best of what they have left, dude, they're holding on to the Black Gold tapes for a fucking rainy day, man, because like that's it. That's all that's left in the fucking tank, dude. There's nothing else out. There is nothing else. It's just a bunch of shitty jams he did at studios, you know, like nothing actually interesting. But it's like, according to Mitch Mitchell, he was like, no, this was going to be album 5. It's like, that was the plan. Crazy.
Wow.
But it's just an acoustic guitar demo, you know? So, but you know what? If you listen to that first track, it's called something like September or something. It's a very beautiful song. I really like it. And it's Hendrix with an acoustic guitar, which is super neat too. But yeah, feast your brain on that. I learned about that when I was 11 or 12, and I've been obsessed with it ever since. And I can't believe some of it came out and it slipped by me in the last 15 years.
But I'm just taking this in now. Wow.
While Brandon's mind is blown, and we can bring the rest of this Black Gold conversation to the bonus episode. Wrap it up. No one cares about Jimi Hendrix. So, Brandon, that was super fucking fun. I loved talking about Jimi Hendrix with you.
Good pick, man.
Fun pick. You know, I don't know how else you do some of these old bands. You know, I really don't. You know, there has to be a hook. Like, I don't know how you talk about the Doors on this show. Like, we probably can. I would like to. I like some Doors albums I'm obsessed with. I love, but it's like, how do you not just have the same conversation, you know, that we just had, but about Jim Morrison instead of Jimi Hendrix, you know? Because it's like, it's a tale as old as time, kind of like what you were getting at.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I don't know, but I hope you guys found this interesting. I hope maybe you've heard some new Jimi Hendrix music you've never heard before, because that is probably one of the greater gifts that I can think of giving to anybody, is hearing a new Hendrix song for the first time. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
But Brandon, do you have any final thoughts on First Rays of the New Rising Sun? Would you recommend First Rays of the New Rising Sun? That's kind of an actual question.
Yeah, it's so interesting to say, because I think, like, I hate to say, I think this is the would you recommend is so funny, because it's always like, yes, obviously.
Right.
I think this may be the closest to a no that I've ever been. It's still a yes, because it's like, well,
It's Jimi Hendrix.
it's Jimi Hendrix, and
Right.
it's important to hear it. It's important to know it. And I think that you know, if you've never heard First Raise, then you're probably like me, and that there are some songs that you'll really enjoy and really like that you haven't heard before. Like I'm so glad that I'm aware of Easy Rider now.
Song's sick, dude.
You know what I mean? And yet, on the other hand, I was already like perfectly complete and happy and living for like fucking decades without ever even being aware, without ever thinking like, man, I just need more Jimi Hendrix. Fuck.
This is where we're different, my friend.
I never fucking thought of that.
I think about that a lot. I'm like, I wish we had more Jimmy.
Yeah. Okay.
I do. I'm a big.
Well, all right. So then, you know, if that is the way that you feel, dear listener, then I mean, run, don't walk, and listen
Sure.
to this album. In
Absolutely.
that case, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Because this is exactly what it is that you're looking for. And I would say, like, if you're a casual enjoyer, you know, if Hendrix is something that you're not particularly super passionate about, in that case, I would probably say no, because there isn't anything that is more important to hear on this that is more important to hear than what's on the rest of his records, you know? Like the stuff that you really need to know and really need to hear is on the other ones.
Yeah, you've heard of it already.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, I think that's totally fair. I think, like, if I were to entertain saying no, which I'm not going to say, but if I were to entertain that, it would be because this isn't a real album. And to answer the question, we've kind of been posing this entire discussion of, is this his fourth album? The answer is no. It's just not, and it never could be, because he didn't finish his fourth album. He died.
Yeah.
and so,
and then we laughed for some reason.
This is something else. This is its own animal, and it's interesting, but it is kind of like it's extra credit. It's homework a little bit. It's for the Hendrix studiers like myself.
Yeah.
So if I were to say no, it would be for certain people for that reason. But if you just like, dude, if you've never heard some of these fucking songs, the first 8 songs on this rip so hard. Like, it fucking rules, dude. If you need new Jimi Hendrix in your life, oh my God. Just like Brandon said, run to go listen to this. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It's Jimi Hendrix, dude. It's Jimi Hendrix. It's fucking sick. You know, like, what more can you say? All right. So with that, I think we can bid adieu to for this episode of Playback. Reminder, we are also a band, Black Market Dub. So any of the music, all the music you hear in this episode is done by Brandon and I. Not exactly reflective of what we do. If you want to hear, if you really want to hear some of our stuff, go over to blackmarketdub.bandcamp.com. We've got vinyl over there you can buy. We have literally 40 plus EPs and albums that you can check out and listen to. All kinds of really fun stuff. If you're just a nerd who likes listening to us talk, you'll be very happy to know that over on patreon.com/blackmarketdub, you can get bonus episodes, bonus video episodes, ad-free episodes of our full episodes, like these ones on YouTube, and
other free stuff, and other exclusive stuff. And yeah, whenever we release a vinyl, we just give them to our patrons. And
by the time you hear this, it'll have been live for a while, but I actually just started a blog series to accompany these episodes. So I haven't even really talked to Brandon about this much. But so what we've been doing over on Patreon is after we pick our new record on the bonus episode and we decide what it's going to be, Brandon and I, we choose 6 albums that we think you could listen to in addition to our pick to add context or historical background, or if you just are really into the pick and you just want to listen to more stuff.
Companion albums. For your own study and deep dive into the album that we're discussing.
Yeah. So I've been launching those like right before the full episodes drop, so that everyone in Patreon knows kind of what we're about to do, so they can kind of get ready for when the full episodes drop. But yeah, been really fun. Lots of fun stuff over there. $5 if you want all the video content. There's also $1 and $2 tiers if you just want to check out the blog and just support us. That's cool too.
Yes.
But yes, go over to patreon.com/blackmarketdub and fuck with us.
Fuck with it, baby. Yes.
Yep.
So thank you.
Yep.
Thank you to all of our supporters.
Thank you.
To all of our listeners. We love you. You are the greatest and best people who ever lived.
Yes.
And remember, I don't give a damn, baby, Nate, if your hair is short or long.
Oh!
Yeah!
I got a haircut. That's why you did
Nate
that.
got a haircut. That's for you.
Oh, God.
All right. We're out of here. We love you. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.